Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Dayspring Discussions. This is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. I am your host, Sean McGahee. If you geek out about it, I'm going to talk about it. That's right guys, I am here by myself today once again. I did have a couple co-hosts lined up. We had a lot of stuff to talk about between X-Men Apocalypse and TV finales and some other big news. But both of the co-hosts that I had lined up canceled on me at the last minute. So again, I must do this alone. And I can't help but think of the great quote from the terrible movie Batman and Robin when George Clooney says, quote, "This is why Superman works alone." Because indeed, this is why I, Superman, do like to work alone, because sometimes you just can't count on other people. But fear not, I still have much faith in humanity, just not in some of my friends. Maybe I should start offering them incentives like breakfast tacos or mimosas or something like that. Maybe that'll get them to come on a regular basis. But oh well, such is life. Well, there is a lot to talk about, so I didn't just want to cancel. I got a lot of things that happened within this last week, so I just gotta get it out. That's why I want to do this show. There's so much that I want to talk about, and I never have anyone to talk about it with. So this is my way of venting. I look forward to it every week because this way I get to vent and unload, and then also people who ask me my thoughts on movies and comic books and stuff like that, they can, hear my thoughts on it as well, so I don't get bombarded with a million questions throughout the week too. So I'm going to press on. I'm going to do the best job I can. You know how I really don't like doing the show by myself, but again, I'm going to try to give it my best shot. If I stumble along the way, I do apologize, but hopefully you guys will come back with some questions online, interact with me a little bit, and we'll have a good time. All right, so here we go, guys. Starting off, I guess I'm going to go with season finales. I thought about starting off with X-Men Apocalypse review, but my friend Teresa texted me the other day, and she's become a big fan of the show The Flash. Teresa and I don't usually have a lot to talk about. So I figured maybe if I'll start with the CW/DC superhero shows, maybe she'll listen and then she'll tune out afterwards, but at least she's listened to that much, okay? Now there are several shows that are based off DC properties right now. One of them being iZombie on the CW. I never watched that show at all. I really have no interest of watching that show, so we can move on from there. Gotham is another show where I watched the pilot and was completely turned off by it. I don't get that show. Now, it's said that the Sci-Fi Channel, has picked up a show called Krypton that takes place on the planet Krypton many years before Superman was born and the planet was destroyed, and that Superman's grandfather, is said to be the lead character. Now, I'm sure, much like the show Gotham, they're going to have a lot of Superman characters. Of course, we'll see Jor-El. I'm sure we'll see Zod. We'll probably see Brainiac. And maybe along the way, if they get creative, you can see other space characters like Lobo or maybe even Darkseid. With Gotham, I'm going to feel the same way about that I will about Krypton. Why are you having a Batman or Superman based show without Batman or Superman? It just doesn't make sense. So with Gotham, you have a young Bruce Wayne. The very first episode was when his parents were murdered in front of him. And that's kind of the first case that Jim Gordon, played by Benjamin McKenzie, starts off with. Now, Benjamin McKenzie I'm actually a fan of. I watched him in The OC. I watched him in Southland. Great actor. So that's why it kind of gave me a little hope for the series. But after that pilot episode, I'm just turned off by it. You have all these Batman villains. You have Penguin, Mr. Freeze, even hinting at Joker in all this. But you don't have Batman. And a lot of people are saying, oh, the show's gotten a little better, since it started. And they say the same thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but every time I check in on them, they still look horrible. So I have no interest in it at all. So this kind of leads me to my theory about Batman. There are so many Batman fans out there. I think Batman is so cool and he's so much better than Superman. Okay, let me just do this right now, okay? Batman fans don't even watch Gotham. Okay, Jaime and Josh, my two friends who are supposed to be big Batman fans, they don't watch Gotham. They could care less about it. So here's my theory, my new theory on Batman. People always praise Batman's rogue gallery. He's got some great villains. You got Joker, you got Two-Face, you got Catwoman. Great rogues gallery. I'm not going to doubt that. One of the best rogues gallery in comic books, if not the best. Okay? But people aren't watching Gotham, and those villains are on there. So my theory about it is that people always say they like Batman because he's a regular guy. Okay, I can buy that. But I think the reason they like Batman is because he's self-fulfillment of the average male. Okay, let's think about it, okay? He's a billionaire who has a bunch of cool gadgets, goes out and fight crime, and occasionally hooks up with the hot chick, okay? That's pretty much male fulfillment or fantasy at its finest. Same thing why we like James Bond so much, okay? Really cool guy, he's a spy, he's suave, he gets the girl. It's the same thing. That's why these characters are so popular. So to take that out of Gotham, to not put that persona, which a lot of people like about Batman or the Batman world, I think is maybe a reason why Gotham is failing. Could be because of the writing. Could be because it's not actually that good. I don't know. I've only watched a total of 2 episodes of the series, so I really can't comment too much on it. But the fact that I know Batman fans aren't even watching this show gives me an idea of the quality of it, and also perhaps what people like maybe about Batman nowadays. I don't know. Of course, hit me up on social media, Twitter, Facebook, email. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. So moving on to the shows that I actually watch somewhat, or the shows that I like to call the Arrowverse. Several years ago, producer Greg Berlanti started off kind of a DC TV shared universe. And for me, it's been a real enjoyment. And it's something that I feel like the television series is doing better than the cinematic shared universe. Now, granted, of these shows, not all of them have been great. But for the most part, I've enjoyed them coming together and watching them merge and interact with each other. Started off with Arrow, then we got Flash, then we got DC's Legends tomorrow, and of course Supergirl's probably going to be brought into the mix quite a bit now that it's moving over to the CW. So I'm going to start off just one by one, going through each show, and just kind of giving my comments about it. So I'm going to start off with the rookie shows, which is Supergirl and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Both of them had their freshman season this past year. Supergirl was on the CW, which was separate from the rest of Greg Berlanti's shows. Not sure why. Perhaps CBS thought they could do something quite a bit with it. And from what I hear, it had decent ratings. But for CW, America's Most Watched Network, it apparently wasn't enough. So they were going to drop the show. CW picked it up. I'm fine with that. It belongs, I think, with the other Greg Berlanti or Arrowverse shows anyway. But the thing about it, of course, it doesn't excuse me. It doesn't take place in the same universe, though, as the rest of the shows. They had that crossover episode where the Flash, he actually, went to another Earth, which was Supergirl's Earth, and then he had to find his way back. I still haven't watched that episode. See, the thing about Supergirl is the fact that it is on the CW. I'm a cable cutter. I don't have cable. I have Hulu, I have Netflix, I have Amazon. So if it's not on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon, I really don't watch it that much. Oh, and I have HBO too, but technically it's not even my HBO account. It's my friend's, okay? Sorry. So Supergirl, I watched the pilot episode on the computer, because there are a few shows that if I think are worthy, I'll watch on the computer and go out of my way to watch. When I first saw the trailer for the show, I was not a fan of it. It looked like they took Supergirl or Superman and then put them in a romantic comedy. It just looked campy and cheesy and just not good at all. And that trailer, the premiere trailer or the preview trailer, is usually the pilot. So when I sat down to watch the pilot, I pretty much knew what I was getting. But I was going to stay with it and see if I fleshed it out. Was not impressed with the pilot either. Nope, was not. Now, there's some people who said the show is good. Some people said the show is bad. From what I've seen of this season, I think it has potential. I think there are a lot of things that make me very curious to watch it. And I really hope that now that it's moving over to the CW, I get to watch this show either on Hulu or Netflix before season 2 premieres, so I can kind of figure out if I actually really want to stick with it or try to, catch up or not. But Supergirl, there are some things out about it that very make me curious. Number one being Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, a great DC character who I know was featured in this series. So for that, I really want to check that out. Another thing I really want to check out is the fact that it is going to be in the DC Arrowverse, Greg Berlanti universe. And I'm curious to see how they bring it in too, to incorporate that. Because they do reference Superman on the show, I know. And to do that, to bring her into the fold, means they might have to reference Superman on the other Arrowverse shows. But they've kind of already done that. In DC's Legends Tomorrow pilot, Rip Hunter talked about how he had seen Dark Knight's fall and Men of Steel die or something along those lines. But, he, of course, referencing Batman and Superman. The thing is, though, I don't think we're ever going to see Batman or Superman on any of the television shows. At least not these shows. Because they are so featured in the movies. They're the focus of the movies. And Warner Brothers and DC has already said they want to keep their movies and their television universes separate. So I don't think we're going to see either of those two characters, along with Wonder Woman, they're kind of three most infamous characters in the television series at all. So that can pose a little bit of a challenge with Supergirl because she is a branch off of Superman. And from what I've seen of the show or what I've seen of the storylines, they borrow a lot of stuff from Superman. They did the infamous For the Man Who Has Everything storyline, which I believe they called it the Girl Who Has Everything. And I haven't watched the episode yet, but there's that, and then like some of the other storylines or villains like Lady Banshee that they're borrowing from Superman, dealing with Kryptonians, all this stuff. They're pretty much taking Supergirl and giving her Superman's mythology, or not mythology, but rogues gallery and storylines. And to me, that kind of bothers me a little bit because I've read Supergirl comics, and there's an angle you can come at this character and make her interesting where you don't have to rip off Superman mythology. There is. And maybe if the staff or creators or showrunners do a little more research on the character, they might be able to figure it out. Who knows? Maybe that's something they're building up for in season 2 and hopefully future seasons. Now, a couple things that kind of bug me about the series. Number one, my number one with a bullet, Jimmy Olsen is a big, buff, black guy. Oh, he's like a secret agent type too or something, right? Super agent? Something along like those lines? Why? Why? Jimmy Olsen, and people give Jimmy Olsen crap, okay? Like there was a thing with the Man of Steel, okay? Where there was, instead of Jimmy Olsen, there was Jenny Olsen. Although when people complained about it, they just called her Jenny and they never gave her a last name. And then in Batman v Superman, which I'm sure you've seen the movie by now. If you haven't, you really don't care enough to have this spoiled for you. But the photographer that was with Lois in the Middle East was Jimmy Olsen. They never said his name, but director Zack Snyder confirmed that was Jimmy Olsen. And in the extended cut, you do get more of him in the film. The thing about it is, though, he died. They shot him. Jimmy Olsen died in the movie because he was spying. This, to me, is a mistreatment of the character. Okay? Jimmy Olsen is the everyman. He is Superman's pal. He is who we all are. We all want to be Superman, but we're really Jimmy Olsen. We're the average guy who, wants to be special, but just isn't. He's such a pivotal part of the Superman mythology, and in some storylines, the DC mythology, because again, like you said, he is that everyman. Jimmy Olsen is so optimistic and bright, and just tries to see the good in people, and that's important for Superman. Jimmy Olsen is why Superman fights. He sees Jimmy Olsen as the pivotal of what he feels like humanity should be. And every time he looks at Jimmy or, hangs out with him, he sees the good in him, and he sees the good in humanity. And that's what keeps him going. That's what keeps Superman to keep pursuing his quest to save the world from itself. So to take this character and completely misconstrue him, both in the movies and on this television series Supergirl, kind of upsets me a little bit. Well, not upset, but disappoints me, I guess I would say. But what doesn't disappoint me, or what I don't get, is this other character. What's his name? Win. That's his name, Win, right? The puppy dog looking guy who has a crush on Kara. That's essentially Jimmy Olsen, guys. Yeah, he's, bumbling and, not very suave or anything like that. But that's what Jimmy Olsen is, okay? They took Jimmy Olsen and just gave him a new name, and then gave another character's name Jimmy Olsen. Why? Why can't you just make this African American character some other character and name Win Jimmy Olsen? It's not that hard. It's not that difficult. It would make a lot more sense. But again, I have only watched one episode. I'm trying not to judge too harshly, but to me, just on the surface, that doesn't make sense. Some of the other things, though, about this show I'm very questionable about. The main star, Melissa Benoist, I think that's how you say her name, Benoist. I'm sorry, I probably mispronounced it. She looks like a good Supergirl, but sometimes she seems kind of campy. I'll have to wait and see when I see season 1 if I can truly judge it. One thing I have enjoyed about this series is the guest stars. You got Laura Vanderboot, who played Supergirl on Smallville, Dean Cain and Helen Slater, both who are Super alumni, guest on this show, and that makes me happy. I like when they did that in Smallville. I like when they do it in this show. I like how in Flash you have the original Flash from the 1992 series playing Barry's dad, and now, spoiler alert, he's Jay Garrett too. I like that stuff. Just kind of paying homage to what's come before. Even though before it may not be good stuff, it's at least acknowledging that if it wasn't for the stuff of the past, we wouldn't have this stuff of the present. So I'm happy with that. Now, as far as Supergirl being canceled and moving to CW, I'm going to talk about that here in the end when I'm done talking about the other series. So let's move on to the next freshman series, DC's Legends of Tomorrow. This series is a branch off of Flash and Arrow and features a lot of the characters that have been featured on those shows. In fact, I kind of felt like the first half of this season of Arrow and Flash was all trying to set up DC's Legends of Tomorrow. They had to introduce Hawkman and Hawkgirl. They had to finish the storylines with the Atom and White Canary and all that stuff. So I felt like that kind of hurt the Flash and Arrow in their first half of the seasons because they felt like they had to set these characters up for DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Now, when Legends of Tomorrow was previewed, I thought it looked really cool. I liked most of the characters that are going to be in it. So I thought it could be a cool idea and go from there. The first episode I thought was okay. I liked the little twist at the end. Again, spoiler, where at the beginning he tells these heroes that they are important to history, to humanity, to the world. And that's why he needs to recruit them to stop Vandal Savage. But we come to find out that the reason he recruits them is because they are not important. Because taking them out of the timeline does nothing to affect the timeline. And that kind of, if it were me, a little blow to my ego, saying, hey, you may be a hero and you may try to help people, but really, you don't mean jack squat. Kind of harsh, but being that they are true heroes, of course, they got over it and continued on with their journey to stop Vandal Savage. Vandal Savage, great comic book character. I was looking forward to seeing him. Bad, yes, pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. The actor, I'm not sure if it's the way he's written or the actor or what, but his storyline, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, could not care less about. Really, in this show, the characters, the reason I would even want to continue watching this show is because of the Atom and White Canary. I like Sarah Lance. I like Ray Palmer. I even liked Captain Cold. I could care less for Heatwave. Those are 3 characters I really am into. I'm really glad that Captain Cold is going to be back more on Flash because I kind of missed him. I thought he was a great, compelling villain for the show. So I think that'll be nice seeing him on that show again, in a guest starring role, of course. But yeah, White Canary, I was so mad when they killed her off in Arrow to make way for Laurel Lance becoming the new Black Canary. I know a lot of people were upset with that, definitely. And I like to think that she's going to go back to Arrow, but I don't think that's going to happen. I love the character. I love what they did with her in Arrow Season 2. In this one, I feel like she's kind of wasted. The only episodes that I've come back to really watch since like episode 3 were ones that had her kind of as a focus, because I do love the character and I think she can do so much more than what she's doing right now. Same thing with Ray Palmer. Brandon Routh, I thought he did a fine job playing Superman in Superman Returns. I thought he does a fine job playing Ray Palmer. I liked him in Arrow. Kind of sad that he was just another pit stop in the Olicity love romance that I'll get to here in a bit, that I thought has totally destroyed the show Arrow. But anyway, there are characters on DC's Legends of Tomorrow that I liked, but overall, I don't enjoy watching it. I came back and I watched the season finale. I watched the first couple episodes. I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes in the middle of it, and then I came back and watched the season finale. And I felt like I really didn't miss that much, honestly. And as I was watching the season finale, I wasn't getting excited at anything they were doing. Nothing that they were doing was, as a guy who likes reading DC comics and likes the DC characters, nothing they were doing excited me. And to me, that is a problem. Because if I'm not excited and I like these characters, the general audience member who really doesn't know these characters at all can't be even less excited. I wish they would kind of just let this show go and trickle the characters back into like Arrow or Flash. But it's going to go on, and who knows, maybe it might get better. They did tease the JSA, the Justice Society of America, at the end, so maybe it could get better. The only episode I enjoyed a little bit was the Dystopian Star City episode, because you had Stephen Amell coming in. He lost his arm, he's got the beard, and that teases, of course, the Dark Knight Returns, the classic graphic novel by Frank Miller, where an older Batman, recruits a grizzled Green Arrow with a beard and a missing arm to take out Superman with a kryptonite arrow. So that was a good reference, and that episode was okay. But yeah, other than that, it's probably the best episode I've enjoyed, really. Like I said, I don't care about Hawkman or Hawkgirl. Firestorm, never cared about them. Even when they were in The Flash, I didn't care about them at all. So taking these characters I don't care about, putting them together in one show, I guess it's good because that means I don't have to watch them ruin other shows. Maybe. But I don't know. I think this show could be more than what it is. And I hope maybe season 2 it picks up a little bit. I might watch the season premiere to maybe give it a chance. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll wait and see what other shows I'm going to have on my plate coming up in the fall and go from there. Okay, so springboarding over The Flash, I'm going to go to Arrow because Flash is something I'm going to talk a little bit more about because it's my favorite of the shows. And so I'm going to go over to Arrow. What happened? What happened to this show? Season 1, I'll admit, was okay. Season 2 was really good. Season 3 started off good and then kind of... Okay, I'll give Season 3. I'll say Season 3 was pretty good towards the end. It got a little fickle. Season 4 has not been able to hold my interest at all. At all. I don't know what happened. Season 4 is just... So, a while ago, I went back. I think it was within the last year. I went back on Netflix and I rewatched Season 1. First time I had rewatched Arrow since watching the episodes as they aired. And Season 1, I remember being better than what it was. Season 2 was still a great season. I didn't get to Season 3, but the fact that I went back and I thought Season 1 was better than what I remember it being gave me a lot of hope for this series. Season 2, great. Great additions of Black Canary and Deathstroke. Those were great additions. Season 4, I'm going to go on a limb and just say Olicity is the problem with this show. When they first introduced this storyline, I realized the show was in trouble because when they kind of hinted at this towards the end of Season 2, their possible romance between Felicity and Oliver, I didn't see it. I didn't get it, okay? Felicity, Oliver, and Diggle are a great team together. They play off each other great. That's the reason why I felt Season 1 worked so well. But the moment they started hinting at an Oliver-Felicity relationship, I didn't see it. They spent all of Season 1 trying to get Laurel and Oliver together, okay? Then in Season 2, you had Sarah Lance come back, and her and Oliver had that romance. I get those romances. I do. I totally get it. They fit with Oliver's personality. Felicity doesn't fit with Oliver's personality. They go together great, playing off each other as far as characters, but as a romance, it does not work. And I'm sorry, it's part of the reason I'm so turned off by this series. Now, there are great characters. I loved in Season 3 when they brought Thea into the fold with her realizing who her brother is, learning, her martial arts, and then eventually becoming Speedy. That's great. I loved where Thea has gone in the series. Diggle, he's grown as a character. He has a family now. He has a lot more to think about. He's great too, but I feel like Felicity and Oliver, because of their romance, are stuck where they are. They can't move forward as characters because they're still trying to play them together. And to me, that's just ridiculous. With the season finale, one thing I did like was that Oliver looks like he became mayor. If only an interim mayor. He became mayor. And that is a storyline from the comic books 1 year later when Oliver becomes the mayor after trying to put the city back together. And I'm fine with that. That storyline is fine with me. It's Olicity, guys. It's just Olicity. I don't get it. I don't like it. I have not for several seasons now. And I really wish they would just stop. Really wish they would just stop. So, going off a few things. Damien Dark was the main villain of this season. No. Sorry. He didn't work for me. Not at all. He wasn't as clever as, say, Deathstroke or Malcolm Merlyn. Or even Ra's al Ghul. He was just, hey, I want to destroy the world. Ah! Why? I want to destroy the world so we can start again. Okay, Apocalypse. That's fun and all, but it's a little weak, really. I mean, Ra's al Ghul was kind of the same thing where he wanted to release a virus as well. But that's kind of his MO. That's always been his MO, the character, even in the comic books, so that I understood. Deathstroke wanted revenge on Oliver. I get that. And Malcolm Merlyn, kind of the same thing. He wants to level the Glades because it's... What's the word I'm looking for? Was bad? I don't know. I lost my train of thought there, guys. Sorry. So I get that a little more, but it's just... I feel like it's the same thing, though, too. Because if you look at that... Again, I just said it. Season 1, Malcolm Merlyn wanted to level the Glades and start again. Ra's al Ghul wanted to poison... the world and have it start again. Damien Dark wanted to release nuclear bombs and start again. Can we have a different storyline besides the apocalypse, okay? Can we have something different, please? It's old, obviously. It's redone, and you're giving the same thing over and over again. No wonder I'm getting bored with this show. The last half of this season, I'm like, I guess I'll watch Arrow. And I know no one's forcing me to watch Arrow, but it's my hope that this series can be as good as it was. Now, going off the big question of this past season. In the first episode, they teased Laurel a death. And they made us, for almost the entire season, keep questioning who that death was. And later on, we come to find out that it is Laurel Lance, a.k.a. Black Canary. Which made some fans rejoice because they don't like the character of Laurel. I actually thought, I didn't like the idea of Sarah dying so that Laurel become the new Black Canary. When Laurel actually became Black Canary, I actually started to like her character more, which is weird. So her death, I don't mind because, again, I think the character is somewhat useless. I mean, she started off as Oliver's love interest, and then that was it. That's all she really grew to become. So the character hasn't grown. There was no place for the character to go except death. Now her Earth 2 counterpart, on the other hand, Black Siren, we'll get into her when we talk about Flash. So with Laurel, it's fine. I don't think she's gone, of course. Although I'm getting really sick of them bringing characters back from the dead. I truly am. But whatever, you know. Okay. Going back to Felicity. Felicity got shot in, I don't know, mid-season. Mid-season finale is when she got shot, right? And think, oh, maybe she's the one that's dead. She wasn't. But she did get paralyzed. And for the first time, I actually liked Oliver and Felicity's romantic dynamic. She had this, thing happen to her. She had to overcome it. She needed support. Oliver was there for her. I think it was a great thing. Then they'd go, and in maybe, 2 episodes, they had her in that wheelchair. And then they have her standing. They have her walking again. What a bunch of bull crap. I'm sorry, that is complete and utter bull crap. I was enjoying that. For 2 episodes or so, I enjoyed that. And then they had to make her walk again. And they didn't address it the rest of the season. Okay? She just okay, she's got the chip in her back, she can walk again. Great. That's it? That's as simple as it is? I feel like that's kind of a slap in the face to this disabled community even. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like to me that's kind of insensitive, in my opinion. Having her in that wheelchair for the rest of the season, or maybe even the rest of the series, I thought would have been a great dynamic they could have brought to it, but they ruined it. They completely ruined it. Now, the man who gave her that, what's his name? Curtis, a.k.a., what's even the character? Mr. Terrific. Is that his name, Mr. Terrific? I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on that. But he's a good character. In fact, I think he's becoming a better Felicity than what Felicity is. Because Felicity started out as kind of that comic relief within the group. And Curtis, not only is he fulfilling that role because Felicity's all dramatic and whiny now over every goddamn thing, but he's also bringing that diversity to it. Not because he's black, but also because he's gay, He's bringing a new aspect to the show. And that's what I think, after sitting here talking about this for several minutes, is what's wrong with this show. They're not going anywhere. The show is just spinning around, whether it be storylines or characters. They're just a spinning wheel. They're not growing, in my opinion, okay? These characters need to grow. And this season, I saw no growth in the characters at all. Well, Diggle maybe, but again, Felicity and Oliver, oh God, just end it. Just freaking end it, for the love of God, so we can all move on with our lives, and maybe the show can get back a little bit of how good it was in Season 1 or Season 2. Just my last thoughts on the series in regards to Diggle and Malcolm. Diggle liked his storyline here. He spent the whole season trying to redeem his brother, to have faith in his brother, and it ended up biting him in the ass and costing Laurel Lance her life. Diggle took responsibility for that, and when it came down to it, he had to do the one thing he did not want to do, which was kill his brother. And that was such a great storyline there, because the man killed his brother. I have a brother. Sometimes he's not always reliable, okay? Sometimes he lets me down. And I understand that mind frame of having to do something that is just going to kill you inside, but you have to do it. And I thought that was really good with Diggle's storyline. Malcolm Merlyn, last thing on Arrow, Malcolm Merlyn, I want to pose this question to you guys, okay? This is going to be my question for the week, perhaps. Malcolm Merlyn started off as a villain, of course, and he's flipped back and forth throughout 4 seasons, okay? He's with Oliver, he's against Oliver, he's with the team, he's against the team. So do you see him as a clear-cut villain? Or do you see him more of as Magneto-type character, where he thinks he's doing the right thing and what's best for everyone, but really what he's doing is just making a mess? And that's a storyline I really, I want to ask that question to you guys, because I'm starting to see him as a character who he loves his daughter and he wants to keep her safe because it's the only thing he really feels like he has left. But at the same time, he is just a rage of emotion who flip-flops back and forth and perhaps is only out for himself. You tell me, okay? Leave comments, again, Facebook, Twitter, email. Let me know what you think about this, all right? All right, time for the big show, The Flash. While it was the second series coming out of the Arrowverse, I think by far we can say it is definitely the best, okay? And Season 2 stepped up the game, and I think it's definitely better than Season 1. So, the season finale happened. Great season finale. I'll go and say it. Did it stumble on some parts? Yes. It wasn't perfect, but the show itself is not perfect. Sometimes it goes for that cheesy, overdramatic CW drama tone. And that's okay, because overall the story in general is fine, which is what I like about it. And I like that the focus is always on the main character, Barry Allen. And I love that Barry Allen is not a perfect character, okay? He doesn't always know what to do. Most of the time he does the wrong thing. And I think that's what keeps this show fun and watchable, is that we have this flawed main character. Now, coming off of season one, in the season 2 premiere, we saw kind of what happened at the end. The portal or anomaly opened up, and Barry was trying to close it because he caused it. He caused it. So yeah, clean up your mess, man. He wasn't able to do it. So then Firestorm went up and helped him close it, and we come to find out that it cost one half of Firestorm their life. Ronnie Raymond died. The Professor Stein, he still got to live on and found another to merge with to continue being Firestorm and move over to DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which I wish he would have just died. But anyway, yeah. So then, of course, when we see the characters at the beginning of season 2, that has kind of had an effect on Caitlin quite a bit. And we see Barry trying to bring Caitlin back into the fold and trying to comfort her and saying how much they need her and get her over Ronnie's death. Lo and behold, the next guy she ends up having feelings for turns out to be the main supervillain of the series. But, some girls just pick the wrong guy. What are you going to do? So, yeah. Great season. I love they introduced the multiverse. They brought in Earth 2. They brought in the multiverse. And that's such a key to the mythology of the Flash. What's kind of makes it so rich that they're tapping into that. And I'm really enjoying it. And from what I hear, other people are too. Again, my friend Teresa, she is not a big fan of all these shows. She goes and watches the movies. She doesn't watch all of them that I tell her to watch, which is okay. It can't help everyone. But she texted me a few days ago saying that she actually watched the season finale Flash, and she liked it. Awesome. I'm glad that, people who aren't normally into the comic books or into this stuff like this show as well. Because I think one of the reasons it has good characters. Good characters, good story. It doesn't matter what context they're in. If you have those two things, you're going to have an audience. Some of my negatives about this season, though, starting off with the pilot, Barry's dad gets out of jail, hasn't been with his son for, 20 years maybe? And immediately he's like, okay, I'm going to leave now. Why? I mean, you just got out of prison. You're the only person you have connection with, your son, and you're going to leave him? That seems a little weird, really. Although I think we kind of figured out why he left now that we've seen the season finale, because they wanted to distance him from Jay Garrick as much as possible. So from a story perspective, I get it. Another character that they brought in that I thought was kind of weak was Wally West. Now, they made him a little more interesting in those last couple episodes, but at the same time, don't you feel like he's just season 2 Roy Harper, right? Remember in Arrow season 1 and season 2 when the Arrow saved his life? He was a punk kid, the Arrow saved his life, then he idolized Arrow and eventually became his sidekick partner or whatever. And I'm seeing it again in this series. Look, I mean, Wally, kind of a punk kid who really isn't likable at all. The Flash saves his life. He starts to idolize the Flash. Then he finds out that his, pseudo brother is the Flash. And of course, he's already been hit by the particle accelerator. So we know at some point he's going to get his speed if he hasn't already. I talked about Arrow, about recycling storylines and keeping it boring. This is kind of boring. I want to see them do something new, okay? Greg Berlanti, if you're listening to me, I'm on to you. Okay, I know what you're trying to do. And you know what? Come up with better ideas. Because if this show, The Flash, turns into Arrow and all the recycled storylines season after season, I am not going to be happy about that. Okay? I'm not. Talking about characters that were brought in this season that I actually like, Patty Spivot. I know she's got kind of a backlash. Some people aren't crazy about her. But first off, she was hot. I'll go and say that. She was hot. She did it for me. I'll give her that. And also, she wasn't as weak of a character as, say, Iris or Caitlin. I feel like the females in this series are a little weak. They need to be saved a lot. Patty Spivot, yeah, she gets saved, but she can also handle herself. She's a cop, okay? She knows what to do. And sometimes she gets over her head, but I think she's a much stronger character than what Iris and Caitlin are. Sorry, that's just my opinion. She was also a huge geek, which fit great for Barry because he is a huge geek. Back in season 1, you had the episode where Felicity came into Star City. Was Star City? No, my bad. Wrong show. Been to Coast City. Again, wrong series. Where is my mind at, man? I'm thinking, gosh, Green Arrow and Green Lantern. See, this is why I don't like doing this by myself. I don't have time to think. Anyway, Coast City is where Felicity came into. And she played off that geek angle with her and Barry. And Iris kind of noticed the chemistry between them. And that's going with Patty as well. She's kind of a geek. She can much relatable, much better fit for Barry. Now, don't get me wrong. Iris is okay. And in this season, we saw Iris kind of realize that Barry is the one for her. What with them being married in Earth 2, and of course they were married in the future. So Iris kind of gets it, that these feelings that she had for Barry, and then she thought were gone, came back because she got the notion that, yeah, I like this guy. Yeah, I love this guy. I'm meant to be with this guy, so let's just be together. And why they're not together beats me. I mean, obviously she's not dating her boss, right? Remember that storyline? Where for like an episode, said she was going to go on a date with her boss? What happened to that? We didn't even get a conclusion on that. No climax or anything. It was just like, okay, I'm going to go on a date with my boss. Oh, wait, I like you, Barry. Okay, just like that. You didn't even like let your boss down gently or anything. We didn't get that scene at all. Seems a little weird to me. And another gripe, okay, is when Barry was stuck in the Speed Force, Iris is like, I'll go in and get him. Like, okay. After they had just kind of established their feelings for each other, she's like, I'll go in and save him. Okay? She goes in, reaches in, they grab hands, she pulls him out of the Speed Force, okay? And then they hug. They hug. You just established that these two are pretty much in love, and she pulls him from the space-time continuum, and you hug? No, okay? If my wife pulled me out from like a dramatic sci-fi life-altering, end-altering reality, whatever, and she pulls me out, I'm going to plan a big one on her, okay? I'm not going to give her like a friend hug. No, okay? That to me, that just seemed a little ridiculous, okay? There's literally a big moment in both their lives, and they hug. Now, granted, of course, season finale, they went and they kissed, but also in the season finale, Barry talked about how he can't be with her right now because he's so distraught over emotions for his father and all that crappity crap. And Iris is like, I'll wait for you. Okay, great. Well, guess what? You don't have to wait. Because 2 minutes later, Barry goes and changes the entire space-time continuum. That's right. At the end of season 1, Barry went back to try to save his mother. That was what the whole season was about, right? He wanted to go back and save his mother. Well, at the end of season 2, at the end of season 1, he realized he shouldn't do that. Okay? He realized that his life was fine just the way it is, and that he doesn't need to do that. But he did get to say goodbye to his mother, which was a great ending to season 1. Then he lost his father, and I know he's grieving. I know the understanding of it. I can comprehend his train of thought with that to go back. I just lost my dad. I want now my mom back, so I'll go back and save her. But he didn't learn his lesson. The reason he didn't save his mother at the end of season 1 was because mainly he knew that it would mess with everyone else's life. And this season finale as well, when they locked him up to try to take on Zoom by themselves, because they knew that he couldn't think straight. They knew he was too emotional to truly do the right thing and to succeed in defeating Zoom. He's still in that mindset in that last scene. They should have kept him locked up, is what they should have done. But no, he goes back, he saves his mom, and any comic book reader knows that is the main point of Flashpoint, a major comic book storyline. And in Flashpoint, Barry goes back and saves his mother's life. And in doing so, creates a butterfly effect that turns the whole DC universe upside down. Like with Batman, Bruce's parents weren't the ones that died in that alley. It was actually Bruce that died. And then Thomas Wayne, his father, went on to become the Batman. Clark Kent, or Kal-El's ship, did not crash land in a field in Kansas. It crash landed in Metropolis, killed a whole bunch of people from the explosion, and then the government took that baby and then experimented on him for the rest of his life. There's that. Wonder Woman and Aquaman are at war with each other and destroying the entire world. That's Flashpoint in a nutshell, where because of Barry's one selfish act, he goes back and he completely messes with the entire universe and makes everything worse. And I can see what that they're leading toward. With this, though, at the end of Flashpoint, Barry goes back and he sets it right. He goes back and he stops his older version, I guess you could say, from saving his mother. And in return, allegedly set things right again. When he does that, because we know eventually he's going to do that, will that change the rest of the Arrowverse? Stay with me on this one, okay? Barry had to go across to another Earth to see Supergirl in this last fall or this last season. But what if, when he goes back to set the timeline right, he brings Supergirl into their universe, right? I mean, it happens. It's a way to get Supergirl from one universe to another universe. Okay, you start off with the Flash season premiere, give it 1, maybe 2 episodes. Usually 1 episode is all you need to wrap up the cliffhanger from the season finale. I get it. So what if in that season premiere he goes back and he sets things right, okay? And in doing so, yeah, he sets it back pretty much how it was, but some things are different. And one of those things that are different is that Kara and her cast of characters are now in the same universe as the characters in Arrow and Flash and DC's Legends Tomorrow. You've just done a truly comic-style reboot in a television series. Anybody who reads comics, especially DC Comics, knows that these crises or these parallel storylines of, parallel worlds, when they come back together, they usually reboot and fix all the issues that were wrong. An issue that Arrowverse faces right now is they're bringing this show Supergirl over to the CW, but she's in a different universe, so they can't really incorporate her. But by Barry coming back and hopefully fixing his mistakes, he could reset not only his universe, but other universes as well, and again, bringing Supergirl into the Arrowverse. I don't know if you like that phrase, Arrowverse. I love it. I've always called it that. Sorry, guys. That's just how it is. But I think that's something that would work. You tell me. I don't know. There's that. Okay, moving on. Jay Garrick. Not Jay Garrick. Well, let's just talk about all the Jay Garricks. He came on at the beginning of the season, posing as Jay Garrick. Really, it was Zoom, a.k.a. Hunter Zolomon. He actually fell in love with Caitlin. As you can see, he was infatuated with her. He realized that this girl or this woman saw the good in him. And, he held on to that in his own sick and twisted way. I don't know. I get that, like in other series, you have, in season 1 of Arrow, you had an Archer versus an Archer. You had season 2 where you faced Deathstroke, then Oliver faced Ra's al Ghul. You had these characters that were pretty much just a mirror version of himself. And that's what we've gotten in Flash as well. You've gotten Reverse Flash and Zoom, which are speedsters like Barry that he can fight and are like him, that are mirror images of him. Especially with Zoom, because he and Barry, they try to emphasize this towards the second half of the season, where they were very similar in that they both had tragedy happen to them, but by them responding differently to it, they became different characters. One went bad, one went good. And you can see just how they easily, Barry could have become Zoom. To quote Daredevil, "You're just one bad day away from becoming me." And that's what it was. Barry easily could have become Zoom, but he didn't. So that kind of made that character interesting. One thing I don't understand in all this, is usually when you go to other Earths, everyone has the same name. They're just different versions. Like Barry Allen in Earth 2 was still Barry Allen, right? Iris West was still Iris West. Even Harrison Wells is still Harrison Wells in Earth 2. With his dad, or the person that looks like his dad, Jay Garrick, in Earth 3, he looks like his dad, but his name is Jay Garrick. Shouldn't his name be Henry Allen, or shouldn't it? Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh. I don't know. It's not a big worry of mine, but just something I'm thinking about. And also, shouldn't the first siren or red warning light for Caitlin about Jay been like, "Hey, I found your doppelganger, but he doesn't have the same name as you. His name's Hunter Zolomon." He's like, "Oh yeah, we just have a different name." But turns out it wasn't. That actually was Hunter Zolomon, not Jay Garrick. And Jay Garrick, we still haven't seen Earth 2 Jay Garrick, right? Am I correct? Because the Jay Garrick we got at the end of the season finale wasn't Earth 2 Jay Garrick. It was Earth 3 Jay Garrick. So where's Earth 2 Jay Garrick? I don't know. Maybe they'll bring him up later. We'll have to wait and see. And is that mean that is that going to be? Is he going to look like Barry's dad? I mean, because we've already established in Earth 2 that Barry's mother is still alive in Earth 2, so I'm assuming his father is still alive as well. So he has to be Henry Allen and not Jake Garrick. It's the interesting thing and the bad thing about multiverses. Just how it is. If I'm confused, I'm sure other people are confused as well or have other questions. Again, maybe I'm just overthinking it. I'll tell you one thing, though, about Earth 2 I did like. Black Siren. Katie Cassidy. First off, she looked hot in the black. I got it. Plus, she's still locked up. They didn't kill her. Which means that character is definitely going to come back, of course. And I'm curious, again, we can go back to Barry, Flashpoint, coming back and resetting reality to fix his mistake and possibly bringing in Supergirl. So what if when he comes back and resets reality again, Laurel's not dead? I could see that happening. I could see that doing that to where, like I said, you have the Flash season premiere a week or so before all the other season premieres. You fix that storyline, and when Barry comes back, he comes back to a reality that's very similar, but also a little different, kind of like they did with Flashpoint in New 52, right? Where things are different. You know, that would give you such an opportunity for a fresh start with all the Arrowverse shows, okay? Arrow, you can take away all the bad stuff and all the criticism, and you can set things right in that world, okay? Same thing with Legends of Tomorrow, all that stuff. They have such an opportunity with this storyline they're doing in Flash to make all the other series better. It just makes sense to me. At least from a guy, again, who's read a lot of comic books, it makes sense for me to do this and do it as an opportunity to take all the bad stuff out of these shows and leave the good stuff. That's just me. I doubt they will do that, but maybe if, you know, they listen to me for once. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I'm here. Use me as a resource. I talk about this stuff. Yeah, I'm just a fan, but I'm a fan who I think has some couple of good ideas. Or I'm just a crazy guy talking to a microphone. Probably the second. Okay, last thing I'm going to talk about with The Flash. I could talk about, of course, Harrison Wells or Jesse or the King Shark, but not that big a deal to me. The last thing I want to talk about is the other characters. Cisco, his powers are expanding. He's Reverb. Awesome. I like where they're going with that. I don't think he's going to turn evil, but I think he's going to become a much better character, and I like where that character is going. Caitlin, I'm going to pose another question to you guys, okay? Much like I posed with the Malcolm Merlin question. Caitlin. Again, that's one of those characters, kind of like Laurel and Arrow. I feel like they just don't have anything to do with. They gave her as Zoom's love interest, which was somewhat interesting. But I had so much more fun watching Killer Frost this season than I did Caitlin. So, should they take her down the Killer Frost route or not? And I'm going to pose that question to you. Should they try to turn her into Killer Frost or no? You tell me, okay? And last thing, I'm going to talk about Time Remnants and the season finale. The whole reason Zoom was able to fool Team Flash, I guess you could call him, is that he took advantage of the Time Remnants. Basically what happened was he ran back in time to his older self, and then in that present there was two of them. So that's why he could be both Zoom and pose as Jay Garrick at the same time, right? So that's what happened with Barry. He ran back in time while he was racing Zoom in that big old donut. He went back in time, maybe a few seconds or maybe a few minutes, I don't know. So while one Barry was taking out Zoom, the other one was destroying the machine and saving the multiverse. And then pretty much what that happened was Barry sacrificed himself to destroy the machine and save the multiverse. Granted, he did it knowing that another version of himself was going to live on, but it's kind of a heroic act, I think. Pretty heroic. And that, of course, in my mind, is a nod to the famous Barry Allen death in Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? What happened in that? Well, Barry ran really fast and basically got disintegrated while trying to save the multiverse. Isn't that what just happened in the season finale? So immediately when I saw that, I thought of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, in the original comic book, Barry actually died. There wasn't a time remnant to carry on, which he would have thought of it back then. And then it took 25 years for Barry Allen to come back into the fold in the DC universe, which is fine because we got him back with DC's Rebirth, which is phenomenal. If you're a Flash fan and you haven't read DC Rebirth or Flashpoint, do it right now. Teresa, if you're still listening to this and you haven't read those, let me know. I will buy you a copy and so you can read it. Okay? It's just awesome. Okay, guys, so I think that might be it as far as the shows. I was going to talk about DC's Rebirth, but I'm hitting my hour marker, which I try to stay within. So here's what I'm going to do, okay? Because I still haven't talked about Apocalypse. I still haven't talked about some of the other comic book storylines I wanted to get to. So I'm going to take a break. I'll post this online. If you want to come back and hear my Apocalypse review, I'll do a separate one. I just want to get it out. I want to talk about it. Let's just do it, okay? I'm going to go ahead. I'll take a break. I'll get this online, and then if you want to do X-Men Apocalypse, we'll do that separately, okay? So for now, I'm going to say be back in a flash.